Jeremy Renner just did what Hollywood rarely dares. He torched Disney's greed in one savage sentence.
He asked me to do a season 2, and they offered me half the money.
After surviving a near-fatal accident, they welcomed him back with a "Congrats, here's half your paycheck," like he should feel lucky to even exist. And Renner? He didn't just refuse. He exposed their entire game and walked out like a real Avenger. Guys, something serious just went down, and you won't believe what Jeremy Renner said to Disney. Just one sentence. That's all it took to flip the entire conversation and shake the industry.
You think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over?
You think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over? That's it. That's the sentence. 6 words, 0 theatrics, and it shook Disney's polished empire to its core. Not just because it was brutally honest, but because it exposed exactly how cold and calculated their offer really was.
I look at my legs are all twisted up. And I'll worry about that later, because I got to worry about breathing first. If I didn't breathe, then I would have been gone, right?
They didn't see a man who defied death. They saw a paycheck to slash. But Jeremy Renner wasn't about to stay silent. With one ruthless sentence, he flipped their quiet insult into a public explosion. It wasn't just a response. It was a deliberate strike that exposed exactly what Disney hoped to downplay. It was a response to Disney offering him half the salary he made on Hawkeye Season 1. He was offered the same role and the same 8-month shoot, but for half the pay, like surviving a near-fatal accident somehow made him less valuable. It wasn't just insulting. It was a clear message about how little they actually valued him. Let's be clear, Renner didn't limp his way back to work hoping for charity.
How much of you is titanium right now?
Well, this is metal, right here.
Your leg is metal.
Yeah, half my face is metal. All the right side of my back is metal. The ribs, yeah, there was 14 breaks in the ribs.
You see, he powered through one of the most brutal injuries we've ever seen a public figure endure. 38 broken bones, a punctured lung, months of pain and agony. And somehow, he made it back, quietly, without headlines, and without asking anyone for pity. And that's what makes Disney's move even worse. They knew the strength it took and still tried to cut him down. And let's not sugarcoat it. When Disney came to him with that offer, they weren't trying to be generous. They were testing him to see if he'd stay quiet and take the hit, hoping he'd be too grateful just to be included. But instead of saying yes, Renner delivered a sentence that burned through their entire narrative and reminded everyone exactly who they were dealing with. He didn't explode or fold, he spoke once, and it was enough to flip the whole narrative. That sentence didn't just respond, it rewrote the entire narrative and left Disney scrambling to catch up.
This is not Marvel, mind you. This is like this Disney, not even really Disney. It's just the penny pinchers, the accountants. I told them to go fly a kite.
In a single moment, Renner turned a private insult into a public reckoning. What Disney assumed would stay behind closed doors was now being dissected by fans, actors, and the entire industry. This wasn't a negotiation gone wrong. It was exposure, raw, unfiltered, and impossible to walk back. And the fallout? Well-deserved. People didn't just hear what he said, they understood what it meant. A studio built on legacy and loyalty had just tried to shrink one of its own to save a few dollars. They didn't try to hide it or soften the blow. It was a calculated move, and Renner responded with absolute clarity. Because when someone as grounded as Renner calls out the system, you know it's not noise, it's truth. He didn't rant or beg for attention. He made his point and let it land. He just spoke, and in doing so, reminded everyone that silence is how power gets abused, and calling it out is how it stops. Jeremy Renner wasn't just another face in the franchise. He was part of the foundation. While others came and went with hype, he stayed consistent, grounded, and always showed up. Marvel knew that. They treated him like a core piece of the universe, not just a character in the credits.
Well, it's going to take me twice the amount of work for half the amount of money. So 8 months of my time, essentially, and to do it for half the amount. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Here came Disney, and with them, a shift in priorities. Suddenly, it wasn't about contribution or commitment. It was about cost. They didn't approach him like someone who helped build the brand. They treated him like someone past his prime. And that's where the respect line got crossed. Because once you reduce legacy to numbers, you don't just lose talent. You expose exactly how little the past means to you. Renner didn't just walk away from a role. He walked away from a system that assumed he wouldn't notice the difference. And the moment that story hit the public, the response was instant.
Oh, they tried to do this man dirty. Did you hear about this?
Renner didn't need a press tour. His sentence did the talking and fans did the rest. Social media lit up, not with sympathy, but with outrage. Not just because it happened to him, but because it keeps happening.
I'm sorry? Typically, if a series does well and you are trying to get the star back for the next season, you're not asking them to take a 50% pay cut. I mean, keep listening, but tell me if this makes any sense to you.
People weren't shocked that Disney tried it. They were fed up that this is still how the game is played. And that's when Disney's clean, family-friendly armor started to crack. This wasn't about entitlement or ego. It was about fairness. A man who risked everything, his body, his career, his life, got treated like a bargain bin extra. And fans weren't having it. This wasn't about fame or popularity. They weren't defending a celebrity. They were defending the principle. If Jeremy Renner can be tossed aside after everything he gave, then no one is safe from being devalued the second it becomes convenient. And while Renner stood tall, Disney took the hit. Their golden image, carefully manufactured, endlessly polished, started to crack. Suddenly, the studio that sells heartwarming stories was getting dragged for cold corporate cruelty. And no amount of branding could cover up the fact that they tried to shortchange a real-life survivor. Because nothing screams hypocrisy like turning a hero into a headline and hoping no one notices. And literally, what Disney did wasn't an isolated slip. It was a glimpse into how this industry really treats the people who built it. Studios love a comeback story, but only when it's cheap. The moment an actor becomes vulnerable, whether it's age, injury, or public perception, Hollywood shifts from celebration to calculation. They smile in interviews and slash behind the scenes. And Renner's case blew the lid off that quiet pattern.
Scarlett Johansson made $100 million working with Marvel, but she's made it clear she's definitely not coming back to the company.
This is the same system that once tried to underpay Scarlett Johansson while profiting off her name. The same structure that banks on silence, because speaking out usually comes with consequences. But Renner didn't play along, and that's exactly why it hit so hard. But this time, the script flipped. Renner didn't play the grateful survivor. He called it out with clarity and confidence, and the entire industry heard it. And that's what made it dangerous for them. Because now every actor watching from the sidelines just saw someone burn the blueprint and still come out standing.
I still love the character, I still love to do it, but I had to defend myself. I think if anybody at Marvel heard about that, they would be screaming and shouting. It's like, what the hell are you thinking? I didn't ask for any more money, mind you, right? It just paid me what I made the first year.
Jeremy Renner didn't need noise or drama. One firm refusal was enough to make the entire industry pay attention. He didn't try to fix the offer or play the Hollywood game. He walked away from a studio that clearly thought he'd settle for less. And in doing that, he flipped the power dynamic without saying a word more. In a business where silence usually means submission, Renner's refusal was louder than any comeback. And guys, Disney, they weren't ready for that kind of silence. This wasn't just Jeremy Renner defending himself, it was Disney getting exposed in real time. They didn't just misjudge him, they underestimated the public. They thought they could quietly lowball a man who nearly died and no one would care. But the second that sentence dropped, the entire illusion cracked. The studio that sells inspiration tried to shortchange a real-life survivor, and people saw it for what it was: greed, dressed up in branding. Renner didn't need to yell or plead. He made one calculated move, and Disney's mask came off instantly. The carefully polished image of the feel-good empire shattered. Because nothing screams hypocrisy louder than celebrating heroes on screen while devaluing one off it. And here's the part that should terrify them: Renner didn't lose anything. No role, no respect, no relevance. But Disney? They lost something they can't buy back: trust. The internet dragged them. The fans called them out. And the silence from their side only made it worse. Jeremy Renner reminded everyone that even the biggest machine can be broken with a single, well-aimed hit. And this time, the hit didn't come from Hawkeye's bow, it came from the truth. Because when a real Avenger calls you out, you don't just lose a headline, you lose the illusion you've been selling for years. And honestly, Disney's not losing dollars, they're losing dignity by the minute. All it took was 6 words to bring Disney's mask down, and not even their billion-dollar PR machine could put it back on. If you thought that was brutal, just wait, because the industry's cracks are only getting louder. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and stick around. This isn't the last time a giant gets knocked down.